important topics today. One is TCP's timeout, and other one is the flow control. All right. So, such interesting topic. Let's see how it goes. All right. So, when you talk about the TCP transmission control protocol, we always talk about retransmission. All right. So, when does this retransmission happen? When there is a failure in the transmission of packet, then there must be a retransmission. In other words, if a packet is not received at the destination, then the retransmission has to be done by the sender. Now there are two parties involved. All right, one is the sending side, the other is on the receiver side. Now the sender has the data to be sent to the receiver. All right. Now who has to retransmit? The sender has to retransmit if there is a failure. How does the sender know whether the packet has been received or not? For that, we have got the acknowledgement packet. All right. So acknowledgement procedure is involved. But when you talk about the networking protocol, we have learned multiple times that a specific protocol or any specific protocol for that matter will not be able to give a time bound guarantee that okay, this packet will be received within 1 hour or within 45 minutes. All right. So such promise cannot be made by any of the protocols. You try to make that logic here. Sender has to send the packet. It is waiting for acknowledgement. How quickly the acknowledgement has to be received? No protocol can promise anything like that. So how can we go for retransmission? How long should I wait, sir? Should I wait for 1 minute? Should I wait for 1 millisecond? Or 2 hours? Or 45 years? We do not know. All right. So there should be some strategy, some scientific value involved for the sender to initiate the retransmission. Okay, so that is what we are going to have a quick discussion, or quickly we are going to see how are we going to set the timeout value. What is the timeout value? Logic is very simple. Sender sends a packet and it sets the timer. Okay, it is very similar to setting a timer. Okay, this exam is for 45 minutes or this session is for 1 hour, something like that. A timer has to be set, so clock will start ticking, and it is waiting for the acknowledgement from the other side. How long will it wait? Till the timer expires. Once the timer expires, if the packet is not received, if the acknowledgement packet from the receiver is not received, the sender is going to send the packet again. This is called retransmission. Now the critical point is how long the timer has to run. All right, so what's the duration of the timeout? That's the topic for today. Very interesting topic. Let's talk about that. All right, so there should be a trade-off. All right, so you can easily understand. When you look at Sunday morning, all right, so you recall your stay in Karunya 6 months back, right? So from Karunya to Coimbatore, assume that you are going to a church. Okay, from Karunya, maybe 6 o'clock you start your journey, maybe in the bus. All right, so or assume that on a particular day you and your friends hired a taxi, so four or five of you have started your journey at 6 o'clock in the morning to Coimbatore church. Mostly you will be able to reach the church probably in 45 minutes. If it is in Gandhipuram, you can comfortably reach in 45 minutes. It is on Sunday morning. On Friday evening, many a times we have left Karunya to our native places. So Friday evening, maybe at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, same Karunya Nagar to Gandhipuram. How long is it going to take? Same taxi, same driver, same four or five of your friends. I'm sure it is going to take more than 45 minutes. It's going to take 1 hour, even sometimes if the situation is worst, it's going to be 1.5 hours. Don't you understand? Same distance between the source and the destination from Karunya and Gandhipuram. This distance is not changed. Vehicle is not changed, which means the protocol is not changed. Same driver, same vehicle, same load. But why does it change? Because of the traffic. All right. So if you set the timeout as 45 minutes, Friday evening, okay, now look at, you come back our story. You send a packet, and Sunday morning you are sending, you try to correlate these two. Sunday morning you are sending, there is no traffic, it's going to reach in 45 minutes. And when you get a response back, it's going to reach another 45 minutes. So within 1.5 hours, you will get the response. That's not going to be true on Saturday evening or Friday evening. All right, on Friday evening, it's surely going to take more than 2 hours or 2.5 hours for a person to go to Gandhipuram and come back. All right. So how are you going to set the timeout value? Are you going to set as 45 minutes? Okay, then Sunday morning it's fine, but Friday evening you are always going to retransmit, because in within 45 minutes or 1.5 hours you can't reach there and come back. All right, now shall we set it as 3 hours? Sir, it is better because Friday evening it's going to take too long generally, so let's go for 3 hours. Will it be a better option? No, it may not be. Why? Because on the way when the packet is sent, assume that it is lost. When will the sender retransmit? He will retransmit after 3 hours. When was the packet lost? In the first 10 minutes. If the timeout is only 45 minutes, you would get the retransmitted packet in resent by 45 minutes. Now, the sender has to just wait for 3 hours. Look at these 2 points. One is too short. If the timeout period is too short, you always face something called premature timeout. Okay, which means timeout will go quickly. You have to retransmit the packet at all the time. There is nothing positive. All right. Okay, let's take it too long. Okay, timeout period is too much. No, now slow reaction to the segment loss, because segment is lost already, but you are waiting unnecessarily to retransmit the packet. So what shall we do, sir? Let's strike a balance between too short and too long. All right, that's the topic once again. All right, how are you going to estimate RTT? RTT stands for round trip time. You know that. All right, and we are going to take a simple parameter called sample RTT. Okay, very simple logic here. So there is a small value which is calculated. Once a packet is sent, it starts the timer. Packet is received, the timer is stopped. How much time has it been taken? This is called sample RTT. Will this be okay, sir? If you take only the sample RTT, it's not going to be a good measure. Look at the second point. The sample RTT also will vary. Okay, because I said the example of Friday evening and Sunday morning. The that RTT is going to be different. What shall we do? We'll try to measure some longer values. Okay, take some 25 or 50 or 100 such sample RTTs. Try to find the average, so that we'll fix that as the RTT time for the TCP. Will that be also okay? Not very good, but it is better than a single value. Okay. So, is there any standard way to do that? Yes, TCP has come out, or the designers of TCP has proposed to calculate estimated RTT. Estimated is calculated or projected. Okay. What could be the projected RTT? Projected RTT uses two parameters. One is alpha, the other one is sample RTT. We know what is sample RTT. The alpha value is always taken as 0.125. It is 1 by 8. All right. So that is the alpha value. How are we calculating? Estimated RTT is calculated in such a way that estimated RTT is equal to 1 minus alpha times estimated RTT plus alpha times sample RTT. So what will be the first estimated RTT value? It will be simply alpha times sample RTT. Okay. So which is 0.125 of 5 of sample RTT. It's going to be the first time estimated RTT, because this value is going to be 0, because estimated RTT will be initially 0. From the next iteration, you can understand the sample RTT has 1 by 8 of its um, importance into the calculation, and 7 by 8 times estimated RTT comes into picture. So this gives a smoother curve. Okay, this is called exponential weighted moving average. We call it as EWMA. Most of you would know about this simple formula if you are working with your data science or statistical analysis. All right, now you could see that, you could see the blue color spikes. That is always the sample RTT, because it varies at different times. Sometimes it's too small, sometimes it's too much. All right, but your estimated RTT strikes a balance between these two. You see, look at this. Even though you have got a lower RTT, sample RTT, your estimated RTT gives little higher, and here it goes up, and but it maintains a smooth curve. Okay, so this is a good measurement of calculating the round trip time. Okay, so is it the actual value? No, there is a small safety margin is added. Okay, that is called timeout interval. So estimated RTT plus a small delta value is added, which is given as the timeout interval. Okay, so this is a simple formula. So which is estimated RTT plus 4 times a small safety margin. Okay, if your estimated RTT says 1 minute, or maybe 60 seconds, it could be 61 seconds. A small safety margin is added with your formula, and you could also see the value on the screen, which is multiplied with beta, where beta is again 1 by 4th of 1 by 4th. Okay, that value is set. So that gives a small fraction of your safety margin along with your estimated RTT. So this is what your actual round trip time TCP is using at present. Okay, so this gives a smoother curve, and this estimated RTT value gives you a better option of it reduces the premature timeout, as well as it also supports a quick response for if a packet is lost on its transmission. All right, so that's well. Moving on, let's see some interesting sequence diagrams about the TCP's um, um, no, transmission and acknowledgement sequence. Before that, look at the TCP sender side. I want you guys to sit inside a box which is the sender side of TCP, and you should be able to feel what is exactly happening. Okay, you are the sender side of TCP. Somebody is called as receiver side who is connected with you using three-way handshake protocol. Now nothing is in front of you. You have closed your eyes, which means your screen is placed on just in your front. There is, you cannot see what's happening on the other side. What is happening as the sender? Okay, one of the events is data is received from the application, which means application layer has pushed the data to you. What are you supposed to do? You remember, network layer is just below to you. Okay, so what are you doing? You create a sequence number, you know, okay, and then what are you doing? You are sending it to the network layer and you start the timer. Okay, if your estimated RTT says 1 minute, okay, put it as 60 seconds, the timer is started. Okay, now you keep quiet. What happens next? No packet is received, no packet is sent. You have just sent a packet, timer is running. Now you are looking at the timer when it is going to expire. Okay, now what happens? Suddenly timer expires, which means 60 seconds has gone. You have not received any response or acknowledgement from the other side, which means timer expires. What you should do? Send the packet again, which is called retransmission. So I have sent a packet, there is a timeout, and I see, no, I haven't received the acknowledgement. Let me send it back. Okay, so once the same packet is retransmitted, this is called retransmission. What happens next? You have received the acknowledgement. Okay, you have sent a packet, you have received the acknowledgement, but the timer hasn't expired. So what should you do? If the acknowledgement acknowledges the previous unacknowledgement segments, you see, okay, these packets all are received for them, everything is perfect. Okay, now whatever I'm talking about, the timer is going for a one packet or one byte. Okay, now what will happen if there are multiple segments? There will be a separate timer for each segment. Please remember that there will be separate segment for timer for each segment. If there are 10 segments sent, 10 timers are running by the TCP, are run by the TCP. All right, so it is waiting for the acknowledgement for specific segment which is sent, and if there is an expiration, it resends. Very simple logic. Now we have understood. Let's see some using some sequence diagram as well. One of these scenarios is acknowledgement is lost. Okay, that's for the first one. So sender has sent a packet with sequence number 92 and 8 bytes of data. Okay, so 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99 till 99 packets are received. So the receiver is sending a packet with sequence number, I'm sorry, with acknowledgement number 100. What does it mean? I have received till 99, send me the 100th packet. You could see on the screen, it sends with acknowledgement number 100. All right, could you correlate sequence number and acknowledgement number? Perfect. Now what happens? The acknowledgement number is sent, acknowledgement packet is sent by the host B to the host A or the receiver to the center, but unfortunately that acknowledgement is lost. Okay, so what should I do? I'm the sender side TCP. You can even close your eyes, you can imagine that you are the sender side. You have sent a packet, you are waiting for acknowledgement on your left hand, and the timer is running. Okay, acknowledgement is also sent by this receiver, but on the way it it was killed. Okay, it was destroyed due to some network failure. Now you haven't received acknowledgement. What will happen? As the sender side, you are not aware that the packet is received. He has also sent the acknowledgement, that is lost. Nothing is known to you. All you know is you have sent the packet, Timer is running, waiting for acknowledgement. So what happens now? There is a timeout. Okay, timer expires and you resends the packet. Okay, so the sender resends the packet, and you could see the receiver is sending the acknowledgement for 100. Okay, he understood that it is a premature timeout or something wrong has happened with the transmission. So the receiver host B understood or understands that it is a duplicate packet. It sends the acknowledgement for 99th packet with the acknowledgement 100. Perfect. This is one of the scenarios. What could be the other scenario? Premature timeout. Could you see that? Packet number sequence, no, packet with sequence number 92 with 8 bytes of data is sent. You are waiting for acknowledgement of 100. Yes, you are waiting. And then you are sending the next packet with sequence number 100, and you are sending 20 bytes of data, and the acknowledgement is on the way, but the timer is running. So what will happen if premature timeout? You could see on the screen, for the first packet you are waiting for the acknowledgement, but the before the acknowledgement receive, you could see the acknowledgement takes little more time, little longer time than expected. By the time it timeouts, so sender understood or understands that okay, something wrong has happened. Whatever packet I have sent, that fellow did not receive, so he retransmits the packet. Which one? First segment, because it is waiting for its acknowledgement with sequence number 8. But interestingly, receiver side has received till the packet 119. Look at this. Look at this one. At this place, it has received the packet till 119. Okay, and you could see the acknowledgement is sent for 119 with acknowledgement number 120. This is a cumulative acknowledgement. All right, so receiver understood in this scenario that okay, something wrong has happened with my acknowledgements. That's the reason TCP sender has retransmitted the data. It understands that, and then it says, boss, I have received till this packet. Okay, so it sends the acknowledgement for the secondly received packet. Now the sender understood at this time, the sender understood that okay, the packet till 99 also is received, and then the packet with sequence number till 119 are also received. All right, so this many bytes are received. That's the understanding by the host A. So this is the another scenario where TCP is really doing with intelligence, right? And then cumulative acknowledgement covers for earlier lost acknowledgement. That is very similar to the second one. If you look at that, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. You could see the first acknowledgement is lost. In the earlier case, we saw it was little late, that's all. But here it is lost. But otherwise, for the sender, its story is going to be same. Look at that. When you receive the acknowledgement for 120, the sender understood, okay, the receiver has received the first segment and second segment. Because if the first segment is not received, TCP receiver will not acknowledge the second segment. I repeat, if the first segment is not received properly by the TCP receiver, it would not have sent the acknowledgement for the second segment. That is the interesting point here. Now the sender understood, all right, that person has received till 119. Though I did not receive the acknowledgement for 99, something wrong has happened. No problem. Packets are safe. Receiver has received till 119. Hence, it has started sending the packet number with sequence number 120. Okay, hope this is also another interesting scenario. You would really appreciate TCP. Is there anything else? Yeah, there is something called fast retransmit. I will quickly go and talk about that. All right. Now you could see sequence number 92 is sent with 8 bytes of packet. What is it expecting? It is expecting packet acknowledgement with number 100, because till 99 it should have received, and it should send the acknowledgement number 100. It is what expecting. But unfortunately, the second packet is lost. All right, with sequence number 100, 20 bytes, which means 100 till 119 are sent, but it is lost in its transit. All right, sender is not aware, because TCP can send. You have learnt about the sliding window protocol in the clear earlier case. Without acknowledgement, it has sent some set of packets. This many n number of packets can be sent without getting acknowledgement. Okay, in this case it sends five packets. Hope you could relate that. Yes, now it sends the second one, third, fourth and fifth. Because the second packet is lost, in its transit. The receiver side has sent, all right, the acknowledgement for the correctly received packet alone, but three times. Okay, so what is fast retransmit? Look at this line, it gives us the clear understanding. Receipt of three duplicate acknowledgement indicates three segments received after a missing segment. Okay, which means, look at this story. You have sent three, you have received three acknowledgement for the earlier one. The sender understands something wrong, which means the second packet in this case is lost. So the receiver sender understands that three segments received after a missing segment. Okay, a particular segment is missed, and then that person has received three segments. So once you go for it, it goes for that retransmission. Okay, what is happening here? Whatever is lost is sent. So you should understand here, it's not a simple story, very interesting story. I should really appreciate the engineers who have worked on that. Okay, now the sequence number 100 with 20 bytes of data, 100 through 119 is missing, but after three messages are sent, you got the acknowledgement for only the earlierly correctly sent packet. Whatever is sent after is not received acknowledgement. Hence, the sender retransmits the second byte. You know what happens after that? Is it not shown here? Okay, what happens after that? You will just retransmit, you will get the acknowledgement for that with 120. All right, and then you also will get acknowledgement for the third packet. Assume that this is 20, this is 20, this is 20. So you will get the acknowledgement of 160 because the cumulative packets are received. Okay, so this is called TCP, fast retransmit, one of the keywords of TCP. Okay, sender, if the sender receives three additional acknowledgement for same data, resend the unacknowledged segment with the smallest sequence number. Very simple thing to understand. Okay, so this is about your TCP timeout, retransmit, and fast retransmit. Okay, we have little other concepts, small concept which I have haven't given because it's not in the syllabi. But let me see whether I can cover it in the next session. But let's move on to talk about the congestion control, one of the important topics when you talk about TCP. Okay, because when you talk about TCP, congestion control is a crucial characteristics, one of the crucial and important characteristics of TCP. We will not talk about UDP when you talk about the congestion control. All right. So what is actually a congestion control? Very similar to your flow control, but something strange. In flow control, it is end to end, but in congestion control, it talks about the network. Okay. So in colloquially, too many resources sending too much of data too fast for the network to handle. You can see here, this is a simple example of congestion. Okay, and we need to do how we can handle this congestion. At this time, it is good if we talk about flow control as well. All right, this is very similar to flow control. It is one sender for one receiver, but here multiple sender, multiple receiver, multiple junctions, multiple routers. This is what the congestion control is all about. All right, so let's take the basic, but it's unrealistic, but let's talk about this before we go to the higher topics. Okay, simple scenario, you got one router, four devices. Okay, and there are two connections is going to happen. All right, first one router, and you also have got the buffer is infinite, which is not practically possible, but anyway, you have got infinite buffer, which means um, this router can store any amount of data. That's the logic of infinite buffer. So what is happening here? Bandwidth is R, bits per second, or Mbps. You have got host A and host B, and these two receivers. All right. All right, do you have one more flow? Yeah, now you have got two flows. Okay, one is from host to B, it is using the same bandwidth. Okay, bandwidth is R. Please remember the link capacity R is R. It uses the same link to reach the destination. Similarly, host A is also using a similar link through the same router to the other side. Okay, the amount of data which is sent, or the amount of data, or the quantity of the data which is sent is denoted by lambda in, and the throughput is lambda out. You should know lambda out is always going to be less than or equal to lambda in. All right. So if 10 packets are sent, only 10 can be received. 100 MB, 100 megabytes are sent, 100 megabytes only can be received to the max. Okay. So lambda out is always going to be less than or equal to lambda in. You know that. All right. Now what happens in this case? Okay, original data is lambda in, throughput is lambda out. That's okay. No retransmission. That's the assumption which you are having. So what happens if lambda in approaches r by 2? All right. So don't you understand this is something like a traffic, the formula called L by R, traffic intensity. Okay. So when this arrival rate is R by 2, okay, the total bandwidth is R, whatever is sent is r by 2 plus r by 2, r by 2 plus r by 2 is also going to be r. Now what will happen at this case? The traffic intensity will reach 1. So what is going to happen, sir? Assume that you have infinite buffer. Okay, router will not say I don't know, you drop it. No, router has adequate space, more space. What is happening now? This is what, okay, when the when the lambda in is approaching r by 2, your throughput is approaching the lambda out. Okay, so the throughput also can go a maximum of r by 2, not beyond that, because of the link capacity. All right. So if you are sending something beyond that, no sir, it cannot be taken through the link. If only two cars can go through a road, only two cars can go. Okay, parallelly the third car cannot go. That's the logic. All right. So if both are using r by 2 and the other person is also using r by 2, r by 2 plus r by 2 is going to be r, right? So link capacity will reach the max, so the throughput cannot go beyond r by 2. And as as the throughput also reaches r by 2, you should understand the you can remember this graph which we have seen in delay and loss diagram as well. As the lambda in increases, it approaches r by 2, delay goes infinite because the traffic intensity reaches 1. So delay increases 1, obviously there will be packet loss. Obviously there will be packet loss. But as we have infinite link, there is a chance that this packet will reach the destination eventually. All right. Moving on, the second scenario, one router, finite buffer. Same scenario as we have seen in the previous case, but we have got one router with two finite buffers. All right. So what's going to happen now? Same logic, everything is same, and there is a small another uh, complexity we introduce. That is, there is something called retransmission as well. Okay. If there is a timeout packet, we have spoken about the timeout in the previous scenario. We have spoken about the delay. Okay, as delay increases, there will be a timeout at the sender. It will go for the retransmission. All right. Now the retransmission packet also has to be taken into account. So what shall we do now? Application layer data is only lambda in, maybe 100 megabyte is sent. Okay. Now the retransmission is also going to add little more data. Okay. So what is the actual input now? Lambda in plus retransmitted data is going to be lambda dash. You could understand lambda dash in is many a case equal to lambda in, but if there is a retransmission, it's going to be greater than lambda in. So when there is a retransmission, lambda dash in is going to be greater than or equal to lambda in. Yeah, we can understand that story. So now what happens? Any of you got any question? Shall I proceed? Prahasha, you got a question to ask? Shall I proceed? All right. Thank you. Right. So what happens now? The sender sends only when the router buffer is available. How can I do that? Let's talk about that interesting portion. Okay. So moving on. Now lambda in is increasing and it approaches r by 2. Lambda out is also r by 2. This is very similar to the previous one. Okay. Now packets can be lost. Okay. So now what happens? What shall we do now? All right. So let's proceed. Why my screen is not getting moved? Okay. Let's allow this mm, graphics to complete. Okay. There is a free buffer. It goes, and the other also goes. All right. Now you could understand lambda dash in is increasing. All right. Because lambda dash in is increasing, throughput is getting dropped. How can the throughput getting dropped, sir? Please remember, though your input amount of data is equal to lambda in, you also have got your retransmitted data. So that also comes within your lambda in. So automatically throughput is getting down. Okay, because if 10 megabytes are sent, 9 megabytes are original data, 1 megabyte is the retransmitted data. So what will be your throughput if all the packets are received? Only 9 megabyte, because 1 megabit is a retransmitted one, which is lost and then retransmitted. So throughput as a whole is only 9 megabyte. That's the reason as you use the retransmitted data inside as the lambda in, your throughput is slightly getting a dip. You could see that here. Okay, the lambda out is not reaching R by 2. It is somewhere little lower than R by 2, excluding your retransmitted packet. This is the second scenario. All right. And when sending at R by 2 some packet, yeah, need retransmission. So this is the wasted capacity. It's not wasted capacity, but technically when you talk about the throughput, yes, that's true. It's a wasted capacity because of the retransmission. All right. So all right. So in the scenario side too, a very important parameter or very important point to remember is this cost of congestion. Sir, where is congestion, sir? Remember, when there is a delay, parameter increases, there will be loss of packet that will be retransmitted. Now already the throughput is brought down. It is not maintaining with R by 2. It is slightly lesser than R by 2. All right. If the scenario continues, don't you think the R by 2 will still lower than the throughput is still brought down? All right. You could see here, okay, unneeded retransmission, and then the throughput is going to be brought down as the time increases. So that retransmission for given throughput, unneeded retransmission, okay, link carries multiple copies of packet, it reduces the available bandwidth. That is about the actual scenario, uh, near practical. Now let's go for a little more practical one. Okay, there are four senders now. Earlier, four senders, two. I'm sorry, four senders, one router. Now four senders, four routers. Okay, you could see on the screen how they are connected. Host A, B, C, and D are connected in a token ring basis. Okay, so multi-hop path. What is multi-hop path? Look at host A. If he has something to send to host C, it is going to be multi-hop. Okay, you have to go to this router and then you have to cross this router, then only you can reach host C. That is called multi-hop. All right. All right, so from here the packet has to cross this router to reach C. If you take this path, this router to reach host C. So there is a multi-hop, and there is also timeout and retransmit. Let's see how it happens. Okay, this is one flow. Red color talks about communication between A to C. Okay, lambda in is original data, lambda dash in original data plus retransmitted. We have seen this in the previous one also. Another communication between D and B. Interesting. Then D and B, there is another path, okay, than the previous one. There is one more communication between A and C. All right, so this is what the different kinds of communication. So all the four are communicating with other people in one or other direction. Okay, now what's happening here? Okay, link buffer is finite. Yes, true. We understand that. What happens as lambda in and lambda dash increases? As lambda dash increases, all arriving blue packets at upper queue are dropped. Blue throughput is going to zero. All right. So you could understand that. I'm not going to spend much time on that, how it happens. But the important point to remember is, sir, so far things are good, sir. So far things are good. As I have said in the previous case, even in scenario 2, if the case continues, if there is always a retransmission, then there is a drop in throughput. That is has happened here. Okay. So what has happened? Go here. Then the throughput is measured on the y-axis. So throughput, instead of reaching R by 2, it goes to some extent, somewhere peacefully. Then there is a dip, and it has even drastically it has been brought down, and it has become zero somewhere. Okay, so this is what the worst case of congestion. Okay, when the packets have dropped, all right, all the buffering is complete, full, and then there is a huge continuous packet drop, and you could see the situation more. Okay, okay, this is what we have seen so far. I would like to put it in the single screen. So throughput can never exceed the capacity. Remember, R by 2 plus R by 2 is equal to R. It can never exceed the capacity. Delay increases as capacity is approached. Remember your traffic intensity. As the sending rate and the capacity reaches, traffic intensity reaches 1, and then the delay goes up. And then loss and retransmission decreases the effective throughput. Yes, it is true, because retransmitted data are called as wasted bandwidth. Okay, so that is another problem. And because of that, retransmission, again duplicates are also happening. How do you have this duplicate of packets? Because of premature timeout. You have seen in some cases, receiver has received the packet, sent the acknowledgement. Because of the delay, acknowledgement took little more time to reach the sender side. Timeout, he sends the packet again. Retransmission, for me it's a duplicate packet. It's unnecessary, totally unnecessary. It is still putting trouble to the your throughput. And finally, the transmission capacity and buffering is really leading to packet loss. Okay, because there is no buffer space. In the initial case we saw high buffer, infinite buffer, but here buffer is limited, so there is no space for the upstream data. There is a loss of data. Okay, these are all the effect of congestion. All right, so how does TCP approach this congestion control? One is the end-to-end congestion control. Okay, one is no explicit feedback, you go for retransmission. And then congestion is inferred. How do you infer? All right, you have got your TCP retransmission, three acknowledgements are lost, you go for the retransmission. Okay, is there any other method of understanding this? Yeah, the second one is about the network assisted congestion control. Okay, now routers provide the feedback. This is another interesting one. It's only for completion sake. Okay, the routers are providing the feedback to the sending side. Look, there is a congestion. Remember, very similar to the traffic police. Okay, it indicates the sender side there is a problem, that is taken care by the router. That is nothing to do with the TCP. Please remember that. Okay, that is explicit congestion notification. The point is, you got your TCP's ECN is also available. Okay, early congestion notification, and then your asynchronous transmission mode, then DEC bit, all are the different ways your TCP is having the congestion control approaches. So how can we learn about that? So I request the interesting people to please spend a lot of time or adequate time in reading about your ECN bit, which are available with the TCP, how the congestion is handled. And the second one is the network assisted congestion, how very famous congestion control protocol is for RED, random early detection, drop tail, the packet as the drop is dropped. Okay, so that is about drop tail protocol. Very interesting protocols are existing. Please do a survey on that, so that will really help you to understand more about the congestion control. Okay, right, so this is what I wanted to talk to you. So I stop the screen sharing at this time, and I also stop recording of the screen.